Thank you, everyone, for coming here today. Today, we have assembled with members of the House of Representatives, members of the Georgia Black Caucus, and also members of the ACLU are represented today. We are here today because we will never stop fighting for our voting rights. We've been fighting for many, many years, and it's sad to say today that we have to still keep fighting endlessly for our rights. First, we're going to start this press conference off with the Vice Chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, Representative Sandra Scott.
Good morning. State Representative Sandra G. Scott, District 76, Clayton and Henry County. Today, I am here to speak on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of black voters in rural Georgia. For the last 8 years, our current Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, has spent his time illegally purging voter files and disenfranchising the black vote. As the vice chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus since 2011, I have always taken a stance against injustice, and now we all should be taking a stance on the egregious acts of Brian Kemp. Chris Kobach notorious cross-check program that compares registered information with motor vehicle and social security database is the ultimate attempt to suppress the vote. If a single letter, space, or hyphen did not match the database, the voter application was rejected. Black voters were 8 times more likely than whites to have their registration halted due to exact match. Kemp now says that it's a bad idea, but was instrumental in allowing his associate, Mike Malone, to go through the entire state to find out which polls to close. Closing polling locations for majority black voters is a sign that we have not taken as many steps forward as we thought we could. The polling places in Randolph County should remain open until after the general election. We should not be closing or purging any polling places until after the general election. We're asking Brian Kemp to halt his assault on the black voters. We're asking him to stop the suppression of black voters, and we're asking him to allow people the right to vote. The polling places should remain open in Randolph County to give all citizens the right to vote. He's asking them to have to drive 15 miles to vote. We know that that is wrong. We know that that is injustice, and we know that is suppressing the black vote. So we're asking that all the polling places remain open until after the general election. Now, we will have Chris Bruce from ACLU.
Good morning. Thank you to the members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus for allowing me to speak today. My name is Christopher Bruce, and I am the Policy Counsel of the ACLU of Georgia, an organization dedicated to the sacred constitutional right to vote for all Georgians. We are here to express our strong opposition to the discriminatory proposal to eliminate 7 out of the 9 polling locations in Randolph County on the eve of the November elections. This proposal is reminiscent of Georgia's ugly, discriminatory past, and that's where it should stay. This message is to the members of the Elections Board of Randolph County. If you care about our democracy and prefer to avoid unnecessary litigation and legal liability, we recommend that you reject this proposal. I want to make 3 points today. First, this proposal will have a discriminatory impact on African Americans and likely violates the Federal Voting Rights Act. As you are aware, Randolph County is a black belt county that 60% of African Americans That's twice the amount in the state of Georgia, typically on a percentage. Eliminating 7 out of 9 polling locations in this county guarantees lower voter turnout for African Americans in this upcoming November election. The Federal Voting Rights Act is a federal law that many Georgians owned civil rights leaders fought hard to pass. It was passed to eliminate legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevent African Americans from exercising the constitutional right to vote, and guaranteed under the 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Second, eliminating all rural polling places surrounding Cuthbert and Shellman will make it impossible for rural voters without vehicles to vote in person on Election Day. They will have to walk 3.5 hours to get to a polling place. 3.5 hour walk in November to vote. And Randolph County, which is disproportionately black, has over 3 times as many people without vehicles as compared to the state of Georgia, and double the poverty rate. Making it practically impossible to vote in person is unconstitutional. Third, this proposal fails the common sense test. Apparently, all 9 polling locations were necessary for the primary election in May, and also for the runoff election that happened in last July. Yet this proposal assumes that only 2 polling locations are necessary for the upcoming November elections, which is expected to have a much higher turnout than the 2 previous ones. Randolph County is fighting back, and we stand with them today. I want to thank all the people who have donated their time, their money, and anything else that they've done as far as phone calls, who has been focusing on Randolph County. It is the people that are taking up a stance for their voting rights that is going to make a difference. We are not going to back down. Randolph County needs to make the right decision and make sure that they reject this proposal to close 7 out of the 9 polling locations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Christopher Bruce. Again, my name is State Representative Erica Thomas, and I represent District 39, which is South Cobb County. And I want to close this by saying a few things that need to be pointed out. One big thing is that you see us here today, but you also see these same people that stood here and fought against HB 515, which was another way trying to suppress our vote, where they were trying to take the black people and put them all together in one Democratic district and take them out of a Republican district. And we stood here together and we fought against that. And what was their excuse for that? They said they wanted to put people of like minds together. No, that's not what they were trying to do. They were trying to make sure that their people were able to win. And we as people say that we are supposed to make sure that the people are supposed to pick their representation. We're not supposed to pick who we represent. And so that is unconstitutional and unfair. And we fought very hard and we stood out and we talked to the media, and those things that were violating our rights were taken out of HB 515. So we stand here again today because we know that our voice is very powerful. And speaking out today against this, we know that we can make a change. Closing 7 polling places is not right in any way or any fashion that you look at it. There's no way that you can look at it in dissect this any type of way and say that it's okay to close these 7 polling places. So we know that it's coming for a vote. We know that it's coming before the elections board. And we directly speak to the elections board today and we say, think with common sense. Think of your people in your county and know that they deserve a voice. And by shutting down these polling places, you are doing nothing but taking away their voice. We talk about wheelchair access, shutting down polling places for wheelchair access. Look at the word access. What you're doing is you're taking away their access to vote. And yes, we are standing here because we are upset. Because our forefathers fought, bled, and died to make sure that we're not just three-fourths of a vote, but a whole vote. And you're sitting here trying to take us back to those days and take us to where we are not a vote because we don't have access to the polling place. So I know that next question might be, what are we going to do in the future? How are we going to be able to protect the people of Randolph County? Because we stand here and we're in Metro Atlanta. How are we going to be able to do that? We are now drafting the Voters' Bill of Rights for next session. And yes, it is going to be 2019. And I'm sorry to say that we have to get all the way to 2019 and still have to draft the Voters' Bill of Rights. But yes, our rights need to be heard. And we are working with the New Georgia Project. We are working with ACLU. We are working with a host of different representatives on both sides of the aisle to draft the Voters' Bill of Rights that will come before you during next session. And we hope that we can get bipartisan support. Because when you think of voters, you shouldn't just say, oh, when you think of Voters' Bill of Rights, you shouldn't just say blacks. Voters are every race, every gender, from all over Georgia. And their rights need to be protected. Thank you, everyone. Do we have any questions?
Spoken from two representatives from that represent Randolph County, and what are their responses?
So I know that the representatives the representative that we know of that represents Randolph County, I haven't spoken to, I believe it's Gerald Green personally. But what I will say is that the voters that are in that county, 63% of that county is black voters. And I don't want to put words in the representatives' mouths, but it's looking as if they're trying to suppress those voters from going to the polls.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What were you about to say?
Oh, Representative Green actually issued a statement saying that he wasn't for closing the
Oh, okay. So even better than that. So Roger Bruce says, Roger Bruce, Representative Chris Bruce stated that Gerald Green has released a statement. Representative Gerald Green has released a statement, and he has even said, even though he has even said that he does not approve of these polling places being closed. So we're standing here saying that we don't approve of them being closed, and the representative is saying that he doesn't approve of being closed. So why are they being closed?
And you criticized Brian Kemp, and ultimately this is tomorrow, this is the decision of the Randolph County elections board. What more do you think Kemp can do, and what more should he be doing in your mind?
Well, I think that Secretary of State Brian Kemp can halt Mr. Noble from going around to different counties and looking at this accessibility for ADA compliance until after the general elections. I think it's something that should have been noted before it got started, that this was going to cause harm to the people of Randolph County and across the state of Georgia. We should not be closing any polls coming up to the general election, as well as we should not be purging voters. We should not be trying to do the data match to suppress the vote. We should be trying to get all people to go to the polls and vote. Let the people's voices be heard by their vote. So I think Brian Kemp need to halt anything that he has in his mind to do to suppress the black vote, or any votes.
Secretary Kemp has said, first of all, he doesn't have any control over the election board. Those decisions are up to them. Second, he said, he spoke to us yesterday, that he didn't recommend this to the election board, that they reached out to him. And he actually opposes closing the 7 polling places as well. What more could he do? He says he has the power to do it, and he's come out totally against closing the polling places.
Well, I know that he has come out recently against the polling places, but if you were to go to Randolph County website, a week or so ago, they had it that it came from him. So I am glad that he have made the decision to denounce the closing of the 7 voting precincts,
Okay,
and that he have put it out in the press and had a comment with you all. But at the end of the day, if you go to the Randolph County website, you would have seen where they said that the information had come from him for them to come down into Randolph County. So I am glad that he has made the decision to ask them to not close the 7 polling locations in Randolph County.
And I think it's a collaborative of everyone because, the pressure needs to be put on the Board of Elections. And Brian Kemp is the chief elections officer. And so we are here to put pressure on them. But we need everyone to stand out and to speak out about this, because without everyone speaking out, without them putting the pressure on Randolph County, we could see a negative turnout tomorrow.
This is the risk, one of the reasons that they said not just consolidation, but being ADA compliant. And I saw the video that the ACLU shot of Malone saying that the county actually broke the law. The county official signed off that they weren't ADA compliant. Is there a risk on the other side that someone who's disabled can't get to the site and that opens the county to a federal lawsuit?
It's a good question. These polling locations have been open for years before without any type of complaint or any type of issues. It's funny that it's now coming up in November when you have a hotly contested gubernatorial statewide race going forward. What Randolph County could do and should do is find other locations in the area. These are not the only locations that are available for people to vote. Randolph County has known about the ADA compliance for years as well. It's coincidental, and I wouldn't even go that far as saying coincidental. It's kind of funny of saying right before a November election, right after the July primary runoff election, now you decide on closing these polling locations. It does not need to happen, especially not in Randolph County, not in other black belt counties, and not anywhere else in the state of Georgia.
Do we have any more questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about the voters' rights bill that you guys are working on? What does that entail? What does that look like? What are you trying to protect besides this specific issue? What are you trying to protect?
Well, let me just say this is in the draft form. And right now, what we have in progress is we are going around the state, and especially the South Georgia, North Georgia, rural areas that can't voice their opinion like Metro Atlanta, and doing community meetings and talking to the people and asking them what they really want to see on behalf of Voters' Bill of Rights. How do we really protect your rights? Because as we know it, we see it and we can dissect it different types of ways, but when you talk to the people about it, it could come out different. I mean, there's different things that we're hearing in these meetings. Some people are saying that their doors are being knocked on. They're asking them how many people are in this house, how many people have voted, this is just a conspiracy. I mean, you wouldn't even think that these things are actually happening. Doors are being knocked on and asking them have they voted and all this, and it's not a census year. And so we want to make sure that these people aren't treated like second-class citizens. And this is what we are hearing from the community members, just because they want to be able to vote. And when you hear about that, if somebody's knocking on your door, asking all these type of questions, I wouldn't want to vote. You understand? It would discourage someone from going to the polling places. And so we want to hear about what is going on so that we can put it in the Bill of Rights. So right now it's just in the draft form. And so I can't really say exactly what we're dissecting, but after we are able to go through as many counties and then get as many people to speak out as much as we can, then we'll be able to say, you know what, this is what the people are saying and this is what they need to be in this Voters' Bill of Rights. And so we've been working on this. No, we've been working on this. This is not the first time. Like I said, with the HB 515, that was the year before last year. With all the different things that are happening with this voter being purged. There's so many different things that have been happening, and we're just fed up. So it's not just this; it's things that have been happening, since day one.
Okay, one thing that we'll be looking at into the Voters' Bill of Rights is the way that voters are purged from the list. That is one thing we're going to be looking at, is the way that voters are being purged from the list. And we also will be looking at the ADA compliance to make sure that all our polling places can be open and that they're up to standards. And we are also going to be looking at same-day voting. We are going to be looking at other means of getting people registered to vote, as when they go apply for their driver's license, that they're automatically registered to vote. So it's a lot of things that we are going to be looking at in this Bill of Rights. But the main thing, what we want as of this time is that the polling places to remain open and that everyone be able to go out and vote. Randolph County, Clayton County, Henry County, DeKalb County, Bucks County, we want everyone to have the right to go out and vote.
Okay.
We have one more.
So you should be able to. You should be able to vote anywhere within your county. There is technology where it doesn't matter which precinct you're in or polling location. You should be able to go anywhere in your county and be able to vote. You should be able to vote and register on the same day. There is nothing. You have this much technology in your phone. Voting is not hard. Unfortunately, Georgia is in an archaic state of making sure that they put in more proposals to make sure that you do not vote. We need to step back from these discriminatory practices, take a step into the future, and protect everyone's sacred constitutional right to vote.
All right. Go ahead. I'm State Representative Kim Schofield. I represent District 60, Fulton, and Clayton counties. And I want to speak to the fact that we are not a bullying state and that we've got to get off this mentality of trying to be voter bullies. We have a voice. Our voice was not purchased by anyone, nor is our voice and our vote owned by anyone. We have the right to go into a polling place and to vote. These obstacles and barriers were not just randomly thrust upon them. This has been a strategic plan. It's been consistent. So time is out for this bully voting. And we're not going to take it anymore. We will not remain silent. And this is the first of many that we will stand up and confront, because our voice is our right. It is not the right of any other party. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. Again, you heard everything that we said today. This is not the first time that we stood here today. Today and saying that we are standing for the rights of the voters, and not just the voters in our counties. We are stepping up and standing for the rights of voters all over Georgia. And I think it's the right thing to do, because none of us represent Randolph County, but we know that it's important. With the state of Georgia being the #1 place to do business, we need to be protecting people and their rights. And so thank you so much for coming today. If there's not any more questions, we want to make sure. You had a question?
I am.
I will be there.
Yeah, so most of us will be there, God willing, Godspeed. Most of us will be there tomorrow to put the pressure on. They need to see our faces. They need to know that we are here. And we will drive all the way. I don't know how long is it down there? 2 hours. We will drive 2.5 hours, 3 hours. We will, if we have to walk, we will walk all the way down there to show them that if you all close these polls, we will be rallying, we will be protesting, we will be upset. ACLU, you will be proposing. Can I say that? No. We will be rallying, we will be protesting, and we will, to the extent of law, we will make sure that we do whatever we have to do to make sure that these people that don't have cars, that don't have access to their polling places, that they pay taxes for, we will make sure that these people get to the polls, whether Randolph County votes for this or not. They will not hear the last of us. Thank you so much.